everyone, this is Ray the Dashing Womble. On this episode of my supernatural stories, my own personal supernatural stories, is about the Bluebell Hill ghosts. Well, now I can't remember the year it was, somewhere in the mid-80s. A friend of mine and I decided that after hearing about these so-called ghosts that would supposedly, as you drove down Bluebell Hill, which is in Kent near Rochester, which is like the bottom end of England, the rear end of it, if you look at the map of the UK. And it was, we somehow thought it was a fun idea to go out and go ghost hunting, because we'd done several things like this before. And we were young and we were stupid, apparently. Inquisitive, I should say, inquisitive. Anyhow, at the time, I was working at a very nice place in Wimbledon, and we decided on this particular night to go out, which I think was in mid-September. I think it was around, mid to late September. I think it was the 23rd of September is when supposedly this particular thing should happen. And basically what it was is that you would drive down this certain hill, which neither of us had never been to before. I'd been out to Kent before, of course, but never to this particular area. So we looked it up on the map. Yes, we didn't have GPS back then. And we drove on out there this particular night. Got all the way out there, and you could, found our way to Bluebell Hill, and it took us to this very small part of town. And you could see the lights of Kent or Rochester and Maidstone, etc. in the distance, all the yellowed lights, the orange lights of the street lamps, etc. But where we were, there was minimal light. It was, and yeah, there was hills, for sure. But it was a very, not so much creepy part of town. I mean, it was just very dark, and by the time we got, it was late at night when we got there, and which was the best time to be there, apparently, best time to be there. But we got to this part of town, and it was on top of Bluebell Hill, and in this part of the town, there was a big graveyard, big old stone vipping rocks, etc., limestone to go around the perimeter of the graveyard, with these wrought iron fence as well on top of it. I mean, big, old, very creepy. But there was street lights there, but very minimal. So we took the driving down the road. It was a bit earlier. It was night, but it was earlier at that time. And so we drove down this hill, Bluebell Hill. And supposedly what happens is when you go down the hill, someone's supposed to jump out in front of your vehicle, or someone's supposed to jump out in front of your vehicle, scare the living daylights out of you. So I guess we thought that was a fun idea. Anyhow, so we drove down the hill pretty flipping careful. Nothing happened. So we went down the road a bit, down the bottom of the hill, a long ways down. It was quite a big lane and that we went down. And we weren't particularly knowing where this had happened. So the reason why this, apparently this person is to, or persons are supposed to jump in front of your vehicle, is they've had an accident, supposedly gone off the road, if I remember correct. I may not remember correctly. And we'd seen this on the news, because at the time we didn't have the internet either, so it was the news or the newspapers or word of mouth. Anyway, so we drove down the Bluebell Hill. Nothing happened. It was all quiet, just us chatting briefly. So we went down the road, very, very dark country lanes. So that all the lights were the lights of the dash and the headlights on the car. And so we're driving down the road, and we've gone back up the hill, gone back down the hill, or up another hill, the other side of it, that ran adjacent to that. And just drove up there, quite easily. We weren't racing up and down or anything. And we'd done this several times and nothing happened. And then we were just driving quietly and getting a bit disappointed, I suppose, in a way. And then it was dark. It was later at night. I think we were at like about 12:30, 1 in the morning now. And it was just dark. Very dark. Like, dark. And it's just us. There's no one out there. So all of a sudden we're driving down the road, out in the darkness, just the headlights of the car and the minimal lights on the dash. And I turned those down because I don't want those glaring at me. And then all of a sudden, the car lit up with green. There was a shriek of a flipping ringing in the car. We about jumped through the flipping sunroof, both of us together. Scared the living daylights out of us. The car was a light in green. And what was it? It was a friend of mine calling us, because I just had a mobile phone fitted in the car, and it had a green light on it. Scared the living daylights out of the pair of us. Anyhow, let me put that back on. Oh, good grief. I think we screamed and nearly you've been let loose in our undergarments. Oh, gosh. It scared the living daylights out of us. But apparently we didn't have enough of that. So we drove around some more and drove around some more. And nothing happened. And we said, do you know what? Maybe it's just all at a certain time we've missed it, or we're just not doing something right. Or maybe it doesn't happen on today's date. So then it became a matter of, well, how do we get out of here? Again, remember, all we had to do was work on maps. And we couldn't, for the life of us, we couldn't figure out how to get out of this town. And so we drove around, or the best way to get out of that town. Like I said, it was all dark and very worrying, I suppose, in a way. Very creepy it was getting. Anyhow, so we get back up to the town again. Or say town, I mean more homes and the graveyard. So we're driving up towards the graveyards over to the right of us, and I spot someone over there. I went, oh, well, maybe they'll be able to help. Yeah, I know it's been way early in the morning. But, you know, we've got to stop something to ask for help. So I turned the car around again, and it was a lady taking her kid, and she had her kid by her hand. And I mean, a little toddler, I heard her maybe about two or three. So she's walking past the graveyard. She walks across the road, and there's a home there on the left of us, going down the other side, which I don't think is Bluebell Hill because that was the other way. So he drives alongside of us, coasts alongside of her, and I called out the window, excuse me, can you help us? And they just kept moving, didn't even turn around. Okay, well, they must be worried about us. And I just said, excuse me, can you help us get out of the town? And they just kept walking. Didn't even stop or anything. So at this point, we're at this side of this house. This house is just, it's on the corner of a road, and it's just lengthways. We've got one end of the house. And so they get to the edge of the back of this house, and then they take a left. So they're walking down a pathway down the back of the house. Well, yeah, and I pulled up and I stopped. I said, excuse me, can you help us get out of the town? They didn't do anything, they just carried on. And they were moving very slowly. And, you know, my mate was there, John, and we were there, and we were both looking. And then it happened. The lady and the kid never looked at us. Just carried on walking. And they just disappeared. In front of us. They just gone. It's like they were there. They were still walking. And then they weren't. They didn't move anywhere. There was nowhere to go. It was just a straight path. They were there, and it's like someone just switched off. I sat there for a few seconds or more, looked, carried on looking, and went, I turned to my mate and went, and he was looking too, and I went, you saw that right? And he went, time to get out of town. We found our own way out of town then. We may not have found the ones at Bluebell Hill, but they weren't the only ones at Bluebell Hill. That was pretty bloody creepy. Turned the car around, drove slowly past the graveyard again. I don't know why. And then found our way out. We found our own way out, funny enough. But, yeah. So when someone tells you they don't believe in ghosts, or they say ghosts don't exist, yeah, they just haven't been lucky or unlucky enough to see them. Our ones, I wouldn't say were friendly. They didn't help us. Or maybe they helped motivate us to get out of there a bit quicker. But, yeah, ghosts do exist. They do. And that's not the only story, but I'll leave that for another day. Happy Halloween, I suppose.
Remember you're a Womble. Remember you're a Womble. Remember you're a Womble. Remember you're a Womble.
He dashes here. He dashes there. He dashes every bloody where. He dashes up. He dashes down. A dashing Womble gets all over town. Whoa!